And I know there's no one in here, but we'll share the screen anyway.
Okay. All right, well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Sarah Smith's Go Team meeting, where we will follow the agenda as it has been emailed to you and publicly noticed. I'm pleased to call this meeting of the Sarah Smith Go Team to order. Our first order of business is to call roll and review our norms. The secretary will now take roll.
Please respond present when your name is called. Dwight Hudson,
Present.
Mary Posada, Joanna Dickerson, present. Ben Miller,
Present.
Jennifer Berry, BJ Osby,
Present.
Carla Lamar,
Present.
Magali De La Torre, Dina Reeves, Allison Stroke, present.
This team will only be able to take official action if quorum is present. Allison, is there a quorum present?
Yes, there's one.
Great. We will now proceed to the action item on the agenda. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This was provided to you and copies are here. Are there any changes to the agenda?
Just need to make one change. We're going to discuss the vacant French teacher.
Is there?
Okay, great. May I have a motion to approve the agenda that reflects the French class item as a discussion?
Motion to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Ms. Lamar. Is there a second? Thank you, Simona. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The agenda's been approved. We'll now review and approve minutes from our last meeting. The minutes have been provided to you. This is from our February 9th meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes provided? If there are no corrections, may I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes? Thank you, BJ. May I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Carla. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. The minutes are approved. We're now going to shift to the discussion items on our agenda. The first discussion item is the presentation of the final budget. So Principal Hudson, over to you.
Okay, so, we've gone through all the steps as far as the preliminary budget chats, looking at the amount of allocations, moving on to our staffing conferences, which I had on February 28th. There were, as we go on, so I guess we read through this. No, let's skip that. So these were the budget parameters that we discussed last time. I didn't make any changes to those. I simply copied and pasted everything over from the previous presentation. During the staffing conference, there were not any changes made to the draft budget we discussed at our last meeting. So everything pretty much remained the same. We actually found one error where a teacher was in there somehow at 2.5 instead of just 1. And that answers the question of what FTE was. That was the full-time equivalent. So instead of counting as 1 teacher, for some reason, she was counting as 2.5. So that ended up balancing out some other things with no changes to the staffing that we discussed. Okay, and I think I got a little bit extra money that we were able to put in materials from that. So no changes to staffing. We didn't add anyone or take anyone away. And so this remains the same pretty much as the last time, with the bulk of our money, of course, being spent on instruction, then pupil services, $547,000 on pupil services, improvement of instructional services, about $335,000, educational media services, about 107, and school administration, about 843. and maintenance and operations around $66,000. So when you look at our pie chart, this is what the budget looks like with, of course, you can see it clearly visually that the bulk of our money is spent on instruction. Do we have any questions?
Right. Yeah, so thank you, Principal Hudson, for sharing this information. We do need to take action today on the budget. I'll now entertain a motion to approve the budget. Allison, thank you. Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you, Carla. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Okay. All those present have voted affirmatively, and so this action item is approved and passes. Thank you, Principal Hudson, for pulling this together for us.
Well, thank you, Go Team. Thank you. It's an interesting first time process. Hopefully next year will be a lot smoother. Even though this year went smoothly as well.
That's what I think, yeah, from my perspective, at least, it was no less smooth than in other years, so thank you very much. All right, so let's go on to other discussion items. So we do have here ahead of these items, the SPLOST improvements. I don't know if you wanted to mention anything about that or if that's later.
It's later, but I can jump ahead to it.
Okay.
First of all, thank you for sharing that document with me because I had not seen that document before you shared it. And so in reviewing it, and I'm gonna change some of these so that they're a little bit bigger.
Mm-hmm.
In reviewing it, I just cut and pasted the major things that pertain to us. One of the major ones that I know everyone has been asking about is the roof replacement. And that should be happening this summer. It shows you how much they've allocated for that in that 1.4 million. The contractors came out and started measuring the roof earlier last week, I believe. So we're hoping to be on target for that to hopefully occur this summer, but we'll get more details. I have put a call in to get some specific details with timing and everything, but I haven't received the answer back yet. But we know that they are in process, and Joe has already met with the contractor when they came out. Safety and security. So they're saying that they are going to give us 2 security vestibules, and 1 at each campus. And so, you know, that's the little area so that no one can enter the school. I feel like we have a pretty decent one here, but we may need a card reader and some other things to make sure it's up to date so that only employees can scan in to go into the main office. And then the other doors are already locked. So that will be coming to both campuses. They said also upgrades to the intercom systems, camera system, fire alarms, ballistic film, and intrusion protection systems. So that's, you know, that's where we are in this day and age and looking at security. That's what we have. Also, Sarah Smith, the primary campus. Well, we already talked about the roof. And then also this campus is going to receive a new generator. So when the power goes out, we'll have a backup generator. Yes, we have one already, but for some reason, maybe they feel that it's not what we need, so they are going to give us a generator.
I thought I remember the last meeting you mentioned this, general, or whether the wish.
That was a wish list, and it's not here, it's that other building.
Right.
Because those bathrooms are very old. So one of the conversations when I do speak to someone about the roof is just to also find out when do we circle around for inside renovation, because that's been the ask of many parents. I think, so going back up.
So just on that in the bathrooms, I mean, I think there is some update. That was something that we discussed here.
Right after a request for trash receptacle.
Yeah.
inside the school, and I think it's still.
I think we have those. I
So-
think those have
so-
been installed.
So
Oh, they've already been.
You can speak on it.
To make sure that this group was up. to Those receptacles are at least now here on campus and being installed or have. been installed.
I've seen them in some restrooms. I don't know if they're still in the process. So I have
It
seen
makes
some.
sense,
of
there
them.
were a lot of them.
23, I believe.
And
So I've
two
seen
big
them in some.
boxes that were set
That was
down in the
fast.
vestibule yesterday, and Joel is actively getting it all
Okay,
done.
so he's fine.
And Ms. Webb helped to coordinate that as well, so thank you. Everything came together, thanks for raising.
Really proud.
And I'm really, like, for me, it's thanks to the community. And once, these young ladies are getting their first cycles earlier and earlier. We did have them in the bathroom, but not inside the stall, and that was a source of embarrassment for many girls. So thank you to the PTO and everyone that pitched in to get that, to make that happen as well. Along those lines of the building itself, I think it was last time we discussed some issues with concerns about mold, humidity. Joel did some initial checks for humidity as well as mold. He did some, visual check. He didn't find any. APS came out, someone from APS came out and did a deeper inspection. We do have when I say not any, there was an area in your office, Coach Elsie's office, in the ceiling that they're going to take care of. They're discussing whether to replace the drywall or just put a vent there. And then I think with the roof replacement, that's gonna be pretty much handled. And so I will follow up with Joe as the weather gets warmer to see if we can do another check, just to make sure that there's no mold growing, and just keep an eye on it throughout the year. Okay. And that's what I meant, not your office. So I really meant the storage room, that's where it was bad. Okay. So it's cut out and it's being taken care of, right? And they're looking at the wall as well, but I think they didn't find anything on the wall, so.
They've been out several times. I think that's all just like concrete and paints.
Mhm.
Not a lot of foam go on. Yeah. roofing.
And so some of the classes that we found would have the most moisture, I think it was about 4 or 5 classrooms. I had them go out and check those classrooms as well, just to kind of get a feel and see what we're dealing with. And so we're fine all the way. But we'll keep an eye on it, and if you notice anything, you let us know. Okay, so those were the SPOS items. We can do the discussion items, because if we need to skip the spring ACES review until the next one, we can, so we can
That
jump
sounds
into.
good. Yeah, so let's go to the volunteers. I think it's the first item.
Yeah, so volunteers, I've been talking to a number of parents, and this really A and B or A and C kind of go together. And the concern is from various parents of a perception. I'll say that it's a perception, and then in some cases, there are some things that may be more or less legitimate. But there's a perception of DLI versus non-DLI. And parents are really, on both sides, are looking to see what can we do to increase our volunteer base and have more parents from the community, so that the volunteer base looks more and more like the community of the entire school. So one thing that I wanted to share with you after meeting with PTO and discussing this is we are going to have a volunteer career fair, a volunteer fair, for lack of better words, and do it right before the play on April 21st, so that it's in the evening and we can catch more parents that may be working during the day from 5 to 6:30. Hopefully, by that time, all the PTO committees will be in place. They can set up booths, talk to parents about volunteer activities, and not just activities that you have to do during the day, but some things where you can help from home at night and bring it in, cutting out things and things of that nature, whatever we can do to get more parents involved. And even when we have our weekend events like Fall Festival and things of that nature. So are there any suggestions or ideas that anyone else has to make this a more successful venture for the first time? Because this is the first time we'll do it.
I'm looking for, and I'm just wondering, especially for the interact how would it be received if you had a separate committee who's just responsible for recruiting volunteers outside of it? Right, because isn't it the function of the PTO? Kind of like a, I don't want to say, kind of just like a pool or a source of volunteers to always pull from or jump to.
So you've been on PTO in the past, right? Ms. Stroh?
I'm on.
So with, like, to that, is there a pool that they pull from, or do they just recruit for the specific committees?
I think maybe, and I don't know for sure, but maybe the root parent will try to recruit for something specific, like, right. So, but I don't think there's a pool. If it's a big thing, I know that they do have like there's a redefined committee and there's
Right.
this, there is that, but that's a specific, specific thing, but I don't think there's a pool to just say, hey, we need help in the garden, or we need help copying, whatever. Yeah.
I guess I have a question in that you seem to say we want our volunteer base to like our students.
Right.
Is there a way that we could, I wish Nina was here, we could utilize the spot to your volunteers? I know part of their community there. Is there a way we can get that here? Without just somebody use on the spot as a
I think that's an excellent idea, and as well as advertising when we have the volunteer fair.
And also, when we have the volunteer fair before the musical, and you have Mr. Kasike or somebody there to interpret and have information available in other languages as well.
I know the room parents are like the go-tos for the whole class, but then, just like within the classroom, families also get the same. So then what about adding like volunteer that kind of transcend classroom politics, maybe break off into different groups? So if I know that I am a member of so many organizations that interact with parents across classrooms and grades, then I can be in the for volunteerism, and then someone else could be, because they may interact with parents outside of school. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm thinking about
kind of pulling, it's still going back to the pool idea, but just kind of, that's your entire job, and to pull from and then you all would actually try to pull volunteers together in addition to what we have. I think so, because also I'm hearing, I've never heard this word before now, but basically volunteer fatigue.
Sure.
So we have a lot of people, like, people present in this room that volunteer for multiple things. And sometimes I'm hearing that you all need a break. I don't know how true that is for everyone, but some people, it's a lot, and they pull on the same people all the time. So just to widen and broaden that base and hopefully get a bigger pool, so we can talk about it. And I'll run it through with PTO too and see if that's a possibility. Okay. Anything else on that topic? Anything you guys think of, please just shoot me an email. And that just goes into the building community too. I guess that could be one bullet. But just to, I guess also, well, no, it's a separate bullet. To go into what can we do as a community to start to just break down that perception that there's a DLI versus non-DLI, because I'm hearing it in multiple places. And some of the things are, one of them that came up is when, and these are perceptions, and so if these are the perceptions that are in the community, like if you're in a non-DLI class and you ask for volunteers, you don't get any. But if you're in a DLI class, you get tons of volunteers. And so that was,
That's representative of all volunteers.
yeah,
A lot mostly going.
yeah. So just as we move forward, just thinking of just some ways to kind of dispel that myth and then what's not a myth and what's actually true. See what we can do to alleviate that or help improve that situation as a whole.
Have we actually?
As far as,
Like I
Why
said,
they're
it's a
not
survey,
volunteering, why
yeah,
they're not
it's just a general survey.
I have not, and I think that's a great idea. What, or more, but framing it more in a positive, what could get you to volunteer more? Huh?
Right, well,
But also leave some, for them to be able to see what their barriers are. It could even be a work schedule. It could be having children in multiple schools.
So are there any barriers to your volunteering?
I mean, I know, I'm just speaking for me, at my daughter's school, because I'm so immersed here. I used to be, when my son was in preschool, but now I'm kind of looking behind, and I've moved, moved on to Sarah Smith.
Are there any things that you believe the school may be doing that may be inhibiting people from volunteering more? And when I say the school, I mean me.
No, not you, but I think some level of ambassadorship probably there, because people identify with who they can. Yeah, and on some ways it needs to be more diverse. I don't know what PTO looks like, as much as I should know what it looks like, but it needs to be more intentionally diverse, whether it's diverse by the type of families that are, the class of families that are socioeconomic, cultural, so that, when people are coming up front to say volunteer, maybe they feel like they see themselves fitting in.
You were gonna say something?
Yeah, just my view is sort of you're saying before. The volunteers who tend to, a lot of members tend to show up more. When they need help, they call people they know. That just sort of creates a similar cycle.
Yes.
Folks, and then those people raise their hands and want to out. I don't know how. I think maybe people want to help, maybe don't, but I like the idea of a survey of what would make you volunteer, what's kept also. Both of those could be really.
building back up for
Yeah.
2 years, we weren't allowed to build.
Right.
So now that we're coming back, it should help. We've got those younger families, those of us that were, never, that happened, never met a parent, like just now starting to get to meet people.
And so one thing
Things
that,
like that, like getting these parents back, they were really, I think that's gonna help. I mean, when I was doing our event, that's what I signed up for one thing and then signed up for, but it was signing up for something and getting it. You've got to get this one families, or any family at this point, we've all affected by it somehow.
okay.
On all levels, but I think the more you get people in the school, getting to know other people, they feel comfortable. I think you'll start to build it back up. Your last couple of years, your volunteers have been people that previously did.
Okay. And I have heard that before.
I think even these, like, field trips, you may not need a lot of chaperones, but get 1 or 2 to go for each class and those. And then at least they can connect with a couple people in their class, like, or the other people. Almost every field trip has multiple classes. It's just small things like that.
Okay.
Getting those, like young grades, mystery readers, some of those things that we used to do that got parents back in the building. The more you get people in the building, they're gonna get comfortable, the more you get to know other people.
Or they'll notice something, like, I'd like to help with that.
Right.
Because everyone knows how to do it right.
I know, I just think. But it's just, we're just now getting back to last, 2020 is when it happened, 2021, we were not allowed in the building. Very little we were allowed, this year is kind of the first year we really, and I feel like we were even limited a little bit, like.
Yeah, it's still, I will say it's still not just totally open. We're still being cautious. So,
Even this year, parent parties, Christmas parties, or whatever, these holiday parties, whatever they were. We were told two parents could come. You have to get the parents.
okay.
Should we put a limit on on opportunities for volunteering to prevent the same people, who are addicted to volunteers?
Here's the problem. Right, that might be a shot in the foot because they are pulling from many of the same volunteer things. So sometimes we don't have enough and you'll hear them say, hey, is anyone more interested in this? And they have to go out and recruit again. But I mean, once that becomes a problem, then that's great,
Right, yeah.
right? So whatever we can think of to just keep working on that and growing in that area. First year, but I think a lot of stuff, I thought, for example, Starstruck was a blast. And I don't know what the participation has been in the years past, but it was pretty good to that. And that was the first time in 2 years.
Since 20. Have it. 29. We always did the springs. Had it. March
Yeah, we did
2020 is when COVID hit.
We didn't have it 20.
Okay, well, we're coming back slowly but surely.
And your events are, like the girls dance sold out, your events are,
Yeah,
people want to be here. And thankfully, people are coming at least to the events.
all right. Hot topic B,
This is,
as it gets warmer, dress code. We have a dress code that we really haven't been enforcing. And I wanted us to take a look. It's not big, but just kind of take a look at it and talk to you all about it before we start to really roll it out. And see if there are any changes or, I'll take this back to the leadership team and we'll have another discussion. Is there anything on there that you see that you might think is unreasonable or hard considering, the community as a whole, all groups?
That first bullet stands out to me, the holes, that's like. I don't know how to.
Well, it's hard to say which holes are appropriate and what age. So it's more trying to knit the older kids and holes up to here. It is.
It is. I did go back and forth about the holes, just because, and even Ms. Webb said it's so hard to find jeans without holes. Like that's all they sell. I remember, that's the thing. Our generation, you got a hole in your jeans, you want to get rid of them, but they sell them like that now.
Here's a bullet 2 can create, depending on your body, especially for the older children who are in shape. Past the waist can be a different length on one group of girls than it is on a different.
So basically it was no crop tops.
Right. I am someone that a shirt past the waist isn't going to go too far because I got hips, right? And so I'm asking, should the length be a little longer to just encompass and not be.
So as a, maybe piggyback in there and as a question, did you check the Suttons? This has been like
The hottest topic.
discussed in various spaces recently. And
I know Paula did check with some other schools, so I know.
Because
I don't
the
know
issue
what
around,
it was.
that's not the sixth grader,
Like,
a lot of
yeah,
business about the leggings, and the shirt, and how far does it go, the shorts, and how are they, and the
So,
straps, and the,
So the things
all
we're
this
seeing
stuff
are shorts with a long top, so it kind of looks like you don't have bottoms on. And then leggings or jeggings with a crop top. So,
You see like a belly.
yeah, and you're seeing
midriff.
waist, or at least it pulls up enough to see something if it, you know, raise your hand in class. So, but we didn't want to get like 50 bullets, and you can have a hole if it's below the knee or above the knee, or, you know, like it's hard to get into all that, but she did consult with other.
As it gets warmer, they're going to push the limit. And here's where, and I've been a son, and I'll just say it. You have some girls that are very shapely, and they get called out on the dress code, and then you have others that don't. And so, like, that's always been a thing. That's been a thing in Sutton when I was there. And then you know what they do, right? They blame us. They blame elementary schools in Sutton. So they're like, it's the elementary schools, they don't have the dress codes. They just let them wear whatever. That's really what happens. So, like for me, I will tell you, I have absolutely no issue with bullet number 3 because of safety, because of PE, fire drills. You have to run those slides and flip flops and all of those shoes that they can just fall out of. I don't have an issue with that at all. I know that 1 can be, you know, problematic, and 2, and then the midriff ones too, like their shirt should cover this stuff.
Number 3, you said you,
I don't have an issue with that. I think that they should wear sneakers and appropriate shoes to school.
I
I don't have any
think
questions.
my question is, the kids, where maybe the kids?
but it's full coverage.
In the PE world, they want you to have a fixed color sports strap.
Yeah.
So as long as you have that sports strap in the back,
On the cross?
Yeah.
they say it's okay. But if you don't have it.
Right, then you can.
My foot has been sucked into a treadmill with crocs.
Exactly. So, my question is, though, I agree with you. The question is how.
Call.
Can it be on PE days?
Well,
Well, I
he's
know,
saying,
like,
what if you have
Joe
a fire?
You got.
At where, I'm sorry, what? Yeah. I mean, I think it might be to the, getting close to that point, this campus. Too, because, I mean,
Well,
they're
they-
starting pacer tests and all that stuff too, where they're.
Coach doesn't let them participate, and they will call and tell them to come home and get some shoes so that they are appropriately dressed for PE. Now that's happening already.
I don't know, we can put it, I mean, obviously, we can put it
We should at least start.
in the emails and start communicating it in newsletters. And send out your
Great. Your shoes. Said you go home, you call your parent, whatever it is. Watch those PE grades drop. And see how quick they have some shoes on.
Just because it's actually like, how we get the kid.
I know.
Right, mom, and then.
Well, they'll,
And we can't,
it
we
won't be a
can't,
bad grade, but they'll miss PE once and they love PE and that's all it was. They can, but I mean,
And it's all over John, like maybe. You have to wear other people's shoes.
that's,
like bowling,
Right?
spray with lights on, come on.
But if shoes are a safety issue beyond. That's just not how-
They are. we have a drill, if we have an actual event.
Not steep hill to lower hill.
Just
Anything
walking
on
through that
here,
mulch.
so you said there's some big discussion about this.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of it's very far off. I just wanted to, I thought it might be helpful to compare language. There might be other ways of expressing some of these things or to streamline it. And personal preference would to not have the word Yeezy be in any school documents.
Right, I agree.
I think that, yeah, so
When was this written? Any idea? when?
Recently.
It was written recently.
You know, that's the kids call, there are specific
We know
ones.
I can appreciate that that is the brand and everything.
Yeah.
I just,
Like the soccer slides, but they're like fluffy.
and their
Oh, yeah.
Yeezys are is Kanye West's brand.
I know what the brand is, but I don't know.
So I
anything.
just don't think we should.
I agree, I
kind of
don't know that you
promote.
want to use that word.
Well, I mean, Crocs is a brand.
Right.
But Crocs didn't say that they prefer all Jewish people are dead.
No.
So that's where, to me.
Cool music.
A different point, I like the description for number 5 to maybe also be used because it's very detailed. So past the waist, right, is subjective. But bullet 6, last bullet, whatever.
All shirts and t-shirts?
How it's very descriptive and cover the entire torso, like how it just gets to the very detailed point. Because past the waist is open for interpretation.
And so is this 3 finger test.
Yeah. So for bullet 2, it says past the waist. I think that these are for interpretation for very clever tweens who are looking to push the limits. But then the last one, how it's describing exactly.
Just long enough to completely cover.
Yeah. So I'm just saying the language for the last one can also be used for the second.
Tops long enough.
And then I remember when I went to an all-girls campus, we had that strat test, but they were specific and like so. You know, instead of the 3 finger. But they were just really specific. Instead of 3 fingers, like you said, my 3 fingers, and someone else's fingers, or you say a quarter of an inch. Yeah. Quarter of an inch.
So let's move there from 3 fingers to inches.
Okay.
I like all
Some had to run theirs by
the
group.
punch.
I think it got. Some had to run theirs by group too.
Oh my
I mean,
God.
they had community meetings.
Huh?
They had community meetings, very big deal. this year. But I'm looking at their notes on it. They ran theirs by.
Also, that wasn't disclosed.
You're gonna enforce it.
So
I will get you what theirs actually.
we'll take this back.
Yes,
Right.
I
I call
think
this
this is-
guidance versus a policy. We call it guidance versus. Anyways,
I think it's worth a discussion. You're going to have to let people know what it is and communicate it and enforce it if you're gonna enforce it. Not one day decide to enforce it and the next day.
Right,
we
across the
don't have
board.
time to enforce it. We enforce it. Yeah, because my girl wears something, and his girl wears something, and then we start talking,
And yeah,
you're
that's-
gonna have to set your guidelines,
and that's what we want to avoid.
right?
So we
I
will
think
take it
it's
back.
good, but yeah, you're gonna have to.
My notes are change language to be as descriptive as last bullet. Compare Sutton,
Good.
3 fingers wide, Instead of saying 3 fingers, move to inches. Get rid of Yeezy out of the document or any other slang. And guidance versus policy, and then run it by legal.
What is the general name for shoes that are made out of that? Is there a general, a generic name?
I think you can just say slides. I think
Slides?
most people know slides.
I think they're ugly. All right, moving on to the last one.
Principal Hudson, this is Chandra from the Go Team office.
Yes, ma'am.
I can help facilitate getting it through legal if you just send over what you all have. I actually worked with Sutton on theirs earlier this year. So once you have it cleaned up, if you send it over, then we can send it to legal.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, and then the last one under discussion items is French. And so you told me about it, so do you want to just kind of express first before I go into the explanation?
Parents are concerned that there's not a French teacher. There hasn't been a French teacher. The kids are going to that to that French special and doing homework.
So, okay, so that actually changed after the break. So the midwinter break, during that break, I found and set up Duolingo for all the students. Created their roster, set up all the teachers that are doing French, and they now are doing Duolingo. The problem has been, we lost a teacher in December, and we've been trying to hire since. We had 2 people, and I sent a letter out to the parents. I was supposed to send it out a week ago or right after the break when we initiated the French, the Duolingo. But and I'm gonna read right off that these were the things that we did to get someone in. We had 2 candidates before the break, one coming through through Georgia State, and another one that was an actual French speaking sub. The Georgia State person, that was working with our teacher development department at APS, Georgia State said she could not accept the job. She was ready to come and accept the job. They told her she had to go to high school. Then the French sub didn't want to take the job. So we've been working with multilingual program and services to recruit French teacher candidates. We reposted the job. There is 1 applicant now, but we also, last semester, I started working with a parent from this community that's a French speaker, native French speaker, heritage speaker of French, and she is in her final phases of being processed in HR, so I'm hoping that she can start this week. We've also worked with Alliance Française to see if we could recruit. I met with someone from the French consulate to see if he had any leads for us last week. We're working with APS Substitute Services for a permanent sub, or we worked with them. We worked with APS teacher recruitment to hire pre-certified French teachers. Those are the teachers that are at the end of their program, but they've already been certified. And there was one more. And they also reached out, the multilingual programs and services have reached out to all the French teachers to see who's there. Here's the thing, it's very difficult to hire a French teacher, and then it's more difficult to hire a French teacher, a part-time French teacher, whose job is ending next year. So we've been working, it's not being ignored. The children are now on Duolingo, which is not the best. APS, I know it's not the best to be doing it all on the computer, but we're working until we get that person in, which hopefully will be this week. Also, APS has given us another resource to start using with video lessons, so we'll start using that if necessary in our written lesson plans to do like a cultural piece on Francophone countries throughout the world, which I'm holding off on to make sure if we can get the lady in and get her a start with those students practicing speaking French and so forth, then that will be what we need to do. But I did send a letter out yesterday or the day before to just make sure that parents knew, and we're working on it. We're not gonna give up, but we're just gonna continue working to get someone in there, but that's where we are right now.
Letterman, just the kids that have French.
Just the ones that have French. So basically, 4th and 5th grade, non-DLI, that's who got, because DLI has Spanish, so everyone else got it.
And still, no French.
And it's supposed to be-
There will be French. The goal is to get French. But that's, so after next year, we will be 100% Spanish school. So all children will be learning Spanish, and that, you know, I see where it has its benefits. I also like the French program because you think about matriculating up into Sutton and then North Atlanta. But the decision was made before I arrived, so the enrollment is being phased out year by year, and we're in the last 2 years. It was made before this whole Go team, correct?
I think it was 2019.
Part of it was to try to create some like synergy with the Spanish language DLI program. And the French teachers also were sort of coming up. Here we are.
Which one of them is another possible solution that parents have pitched to me, one that retired, that may want to come back and just do that part-time. So if this doesn't work out this week, we have about 3 more options that we're gonna try to hopefully get someone in for next year. That's who they have about 2 or 3 parents mentioned, so I'll get her number if this doesn't work out for this week. Because this person wants to be a French teacher, and she was a teacher, so she's just taught other subjects in French.
Because year 1, 2 is hard to hire.
Right. So we're trying everything, we're exhausting all measures. All right. Anything else on that? All right,
I think now we would move on to the informational item.
I think we covered all of them, except for,
The principal's report, did you have any? I know you have been covering things that you've gone.
the spring ACEs. This is the process that we go through from twice a year. We do it in the fall, and then we do it again in February. They call it the spring ACEs, so still winter. We talk about our GLOws, and our GLOW was a shift in school cultures. The staff is now using the IB Learner Profile attributes in conjunction with our positive behavior reward system. Remember, this is gonna be a very big goal for us next year. Ms. Lamar and I actually went to a model IB school in Albany on Friday. And we saw a lot of really good stuff where we aspire to be. Our goal is to be a school that people come and visit to say, hey, this is how IB should work. Full implementation of the enhanced PYP and updated unit planners, that's where we need to grow. We do have money in the budget where we are going to release the teachers, because I hear a lot of times, well, when do they have time to do it? We are going to have some release days, half a day, where one grade level works on their unit planners for half the day, then we switch to another grade level for the afternoon. And then as time goes on, hopefully being able to add some more people. Under the vacancies, that's not true anymore. We do have 1 vacancy, which is the French teacher. But we did hire the 2 clerks. If you notice, they both have started, and we're working to now fill, so there are actually 2 vacancies, because we have to backfill Ms. Turner's. So we have a sub in there. She'll be in the classroom until we have someone that can permanently fill in for the rest of the year. Maybe a sub that's willing to do it for the rest of the year. So those are 2 vacancies that we have. But she was a paraprofessional.
Um,
She's going to be the new clerk.
oh, she's good.
She's going to be the new clerk. So bilingual, able to help with the family to speak Spanish. Just trying to build. Remember, we talked about customer service, improving our customer service, having people answer the phone, having someone at the door at all times. You know, Ms. Johnson runs off to go and do something, and then the door is unattended. So making sure we have someone all the time. Next. Our attendance take rate, it improved slightly from 98.4 to 98.6. Our average daily attendance went down slightly from 94.1 to 93.8. Our students not chronically absent, also was a little bit worse. You know, these vacations and extended European vacations that we deal with in Buckhead, that's a lot of the chunk of that attendance going down. So we talked about it. It's not significant and it's still pretty decent. The attendance take rate is excellent. We really want it to be at 100, but that's pretty good at 98.6. And our suspension data is minimal. We really try to work at this age and this stage of life. We try to work with the kids to not suspend them, unless it's just something egregious and we have, you know, they have to go.
You have concerns about extreme absenteeism as a special purpose.
Of a student, a particular student, refer it to the social worker if you made the first call after 3. And then also the care team can look at that. So we meet every Friday. I jump in when I can, but the social worker, counselor, psychologist, MTSS, they all meet together and talk about any students that have challenges for the care team, and then they switch over to attendance and look at how we can help those students improve. So that'll be your best bet there. This is our data from fall to winter. As you know, the students are taking it again. So we'll look and see in a few how we move from winter to spring. We see some drops here in these areas. So we want to see more green. We don't want to see the green lessening any. And we want to see as minimal red as possible. And so we see some have jumped up. There was major discussion from all the principals with this area because students actually moved from out of the screener into a different assessment where they started to read. So then the percentage of students, it looks differently and it looks like we're doing worse in that area. But a number of the principals, and I wasn't even ready for that until they started saying, yeah, and now this is not fair because if you look at the amount of students that are moving into the reading area, it doesn't account for that. And so that was one of the things we'll have to look at it more closely in the next year. So math took a slight dip. We're gonna see what are the results when we come back. Slight dip in ELA. This is about 4% here. And then in ELA about, it looks like 2%. And then with the screener, about 12%. But like I said, I was looking at that data.
And I just want to say for math, it is typical to see that dip in the winter testing for whatever reason. We've seen that a couple of years now. And nationally, they see that. So I'm not sure the reasoning for it. No one has been able to tell me, but they always say, we see that. Every math meeting I go to, they say, yeah, we see that in the winter. It dips a little bit.
It's trending with the district, but there were some schools that actually did go up. And so I'm curious as how, yeah.
Overall.
So just something for us to keep our eye on next year as we look to improve. This is so boring and not interesting to you guys, but these are the minutes that they did on the programs that we did for intervention. So we have Read 180, System 44, and iRead. These are intervention programs that we use with our struggling learners. And so they monitor the amount of minutes that we use. It gets annoying to the teachers, but as an accountability measure, we send them their data every week to say, hey, these are the minutes that you're hitting. We want them to be at 15 minutes on System 44 at least, on 15 minutes on all of those, right?
It's 30 minutes, so it's
For the week.
It's 15 minutes twice.
Right. So we send that to the teachers. Sometimes it's annoying to them, but I let them know, listen, these are the things that they're looking at for me from the district. So I want you to be aware and just be accountable, get your students on their practice, because when they make their minutes, the research is showing they will move an entire grade in there. So above what they're getting in the instruction, they'll move a little bit over that. So we're just staying on top of that. This is hard to see, but let's see. So this is just our subgroups. And when you see how it's broken down, the different cohorts of students that we have. This is going from fall to winter. So these are Asian students, Black students, Hispanic students, 2 or more races, and white students. So as you look, we're moving from fall to winter all the way across. That's how the students compare. This side is math, and the same groups are compared here for reading. And so this is the data that we look at when we're making decisions. Asian, Black, Hispanic, 2 or more races, and white. And it's the same thing here. Asian, Black, Hispanic, 2 or more races, and white. This here is comparing our students with disabilities. So our students without disabilities to our students with disabilities. I think it's remarkable that of all the places we dipped, we didn't dip in reading in that area. They actually went above. So talking to the teachers too to see, hey, what did you do to make that happen? What was the strategy? And finally, and I don't know how. Let's see, let's move. So this is our continuous improvement plan. And that's, all of this is done in front of, so that you know, or I haven't told you before, in front of the superintendent and a panel. My direct boss, superintendents, people from different departments, and then they just fire questions at you. So I really didn't get to do a presentation. They looked at the data and then they started asking questions. What about this? Why did this happen? How are you doing this? What are you going to do to address this? And so at the end, I don't even think I got to this, which is our continuous improvement plan. Utilize PLCs. That's going to be our main vehicle for ELA and math to push our students that are struggling and the students that need acceleration or need enrichment. This is our vehicle where we meet with the teachers every week and we just sit down and go through what it is that's going to happen in the lesson. What do we want the students to know? What are we going to do for the students that already know it? What are we going to do for the students that are struggling? And then the second question actually is, how will we know when the students know it? How are they going to demonstrate what they've learned? So this is coming from our continuous improvement plan, just cut and paste in, but we're going to continue that work. Whole student, whole child and student support. As we mentioned, care team, when we have students that are struggling, it could be for any reason. They could have had a tragedy in the family, and because of that, they have, emotional needs that we need to address. We pull them onto the care team, wrap loving hands around them, talk about what they need every week. It could be the parent lost a job and they're struggling with food for that week. Our social worker plugs in and is able to get food. She does programs where she sends backpacks home with food in it over the weekend for kids that are hungry. Whatever the child needs beyond just the academic world, we deal with the academic, but it's about looking at the whole child. And so just continuing to do that. We scored exemplary on the first one and proficient on the second, just making sure that we continue to do what we need to do for the students. And then family engagement. We've had 2 fireside chats and we want to increase those. And then Mr. Kasike should be doing 3 more workshops before the end of the year. And we're looking at maybe plugging into some of those in the community instead of having parents come there. So maybe going out to some of the apartments and doing those and working with them. And I think that is it. They asked what my meat is. We did get to this, which is just continue support. APS is doing a great job of sending people when we working with us, helping the teachers out. And so that was my highest priority need for them to just continue with the academic support. Oh, and I did add another piece while we were there. The Title I schools in APS have access to Morton Gillingham training, and we haven't. And so we lifted that as an issue for our schools because it really helps when you're teaching phonics to have that multi-sensory layer and be able to. So we're asking to see if our schools can get those trainings too. And pretty much all the North Cluster parents principals agreed that we need that. So that was it. Any questions?
Was there,
So it's done as a district. They've selected a book, but it's embargoed. So once it's voted on at the board meeting, then we can share it. But the book has been selected. There was input from parents, students, principals. They came and spoke to the principals. They really tried to get it out to as many people as they could before the decision was made. So the decision has been made, and it's embargoed until they vote on it, I think, on the April school board meeting. And then they're supposed to start the training like before the end of this year.
We have copies. Yes.
Of all the different books.
Right.
You don't know.
I do. They told me we can't share it. They put it at the bottom. We selected this. This information is embargoed until after the April board meeting. So
Big print, all
yes, threatening, menacing, well, not threatening. All right, and that is it. Unless we have anything else, any questions or any additions, any discussion. Thank you for today.
Thank you all. Can I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
A motion to adjourn.
Sorry. Thank you, Jay. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, 1 second.
Oh,
All right, thank you everyone that joined us.
Thank you for having us. Great meeting.
Thank you.